Spoštovane dame, cenjeni gospodje, dobrodošli na prireditvi Premikamo Slovenijo, Movig Slovenia, Reshaping Logistics. Spoštovane dame, cenjeni gospodje, pozdravljam vas v imenu Advantage Austria in Časnika Finance. Meine sehr verehrten Damen und Herren, einen recht schönen guten Morgen. Willkommen zur Veranstaltung Movig Slovenia. Ich möchte Sie herzlich begrüßen im Namen von Advantage Austria und Časnik Finance. And now the official language is English. Dear ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Movig Slovenia. It's a digital event. I'm really glad to be with you. And we're going to discuss different aspects of logistics during the COVID epidemic and, of course, after. And we'll have a very informative day in front of us. Dear ladies and gentlemen, before we start the whole event, I would like to thank some sponsors. But before that, let me introduce myself. My name is Peter Frankl. I am CEO and Editor-in-Chief of Časnik Finance. So, great thanks to our sponsors. Without them, this event would not take place. First, a great thank you to our partner, Advantage Austria Ljubljana. Then the sponsors, 2HM Logistics, PTC, Lock Center, Siemens Mobility, and Zavarovalnica Triglav Insurance Triglav, and supported by Austrian Logistics and Go International. Before we start, let me give the opening address to my colleague Wilhelm Nest, Director, Austria Advantage Ljubljana. Mr. Nest, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Peter, and welcome on behalf of Advantage Austria. I had the Ljubljana office of the Austrian Federal Economic Chamber only since October this year. So far, everything is fine, and I'm impressed by the intensity of the business relations between our two countries and by the number of Austrian subsidiaries in Slovenia. These tight economic relations require strong structures in terms of logistics, and there are many Austrian logistics companies that have established their own subsidiaries in Slovenia to offer an even better service to their customers. Movig Slovenia took place for the first time in 2017 as a cooperation between Finance and Advantage Austria. Under normal circumstances, that means without the pandemic, we would have organized a trade mission of Austrian companies to Slovenia, including the attendance of the conference. Unfortunately, this is not possible this year. But we are more than optimistic that in autumn next year, we will all come together again in person, and we are really glad that this year you join us online. Peter?
Wilhelm, thank you very much. And now, before we start, two short messages from our sponsors, 2HM Logistics and Triglav.
Združite zavarovanja poslovnih tveganj svojega malega ali mikropodjetja in prihranite do 25%. Triglav podjetniški komplet. Zavarovalnica Triglav.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. And now the first address goes to Mr. Aleš Mihalič. Mr. Aleš Mihalič, State Secretary, Ministry of Infrastructure. Mr. Mihalič, are we online?
Hello, we are online.
I'm very glad. The stage is yours. Please join us.
Thank you very much. So, dear participants, distinguished guests, good morning. Allow me to firstly thank Advantage Austria Slovenia and newspaper Finance for organizing this event, which will hopefully shed some light on the future of logistics, especially in such troublesome times. The importance of the transport and logistics sector is reflected in the economy of the European Union and its member states. Almost 3/4 of the EU's internal traffic is transported by road. Road transport creates about 5% of total GDP and 50 million jobs in 1.2 million transport companies in the EU. In Slovenia, the share of GDP together with the logistics industry stands at 17%. Slovenia's exceptional geostrategic position, located at the crossroads of important transport corridors, presents additional advantages for the transport and logistics sector. Both sectors are inextricably linked. They are mainly used to serve the economy, which has its own requirements and expectations. For example, either shorter travel times, combined and coordinated modes of transport, appropriate infrastructure, and new additional accompanying services. Logistics can therefore be perceived as the backbone of our economy. The Ministry of Infrastructure focuses mainly on the development, modernization, and maintenance of competitive public transport infrastructure. This will enable the economy to meaningfully plan supply chains and create competitive advantage in the market. Therefore, we actively participate in the planning of basic strategic and development documents that address both infrastructure and transport logistics. A working group has been formed that aims to set up small logistics centers and secure parking spaces for vehicles that are used in transporting goods. One of the most important tasks of this group is to contribute to the improvements of regulations in the area of spatial planning. This represents one of the most pressing problems in road transport. It's therefore crucial to keep transport and logistics in the best possible condition despite all the problems caused by COVID-19 pandemics. Regarding the current status of the Ministry of Infrastructure is continuously trying to provide appropriate support with solving all current and possible future challenges. Turning our sight into the future, we can't overlook the importance of digitalization of transport. One of the steps in the digitalization of transport is the use of electronic documents. One such example is the use of the ECMR electronic consignment note in road transport. Slovenia is one of the most active countries in this regard, since it has already carried out the first pilot road transport using ECMR. This is an extremely important step in the digitalization of road transport. The use of electronic documents will especially important during the COVID-19 pandemics, as it enables business that is completely contactless. Allow me to once again express my gratitude to the organizers and wish all the participants a successful event, which will hopefully address the key issues that both the transport and logistics sector are facing, not just today, but also tomorrow and further in the future. Your experience, solutions and proposals will be important for future actions at the national and EU level. Thank you for your attention and stay healthy.
Thank you very much for your kind address. And now it is time to move on. The introduction will be given by Professor Dr. Tomasz Katrasznik, University of Ljubljana, Faculty of Mechanical Engineering. And after that, my colleague Borut Hočevar will do a short Q&A with Professor. This professor's speech will be, well, the topic of his speech is are changes in international logistics on transition towards an environmentally friendlier and better digitalized logistics sector. Professor Katrasznik, are you there?
Yes, I'm there.
Okay.
Thank you very much for the...
Professor, welcome, and the floor is yours. Here you go.
Thank you very much for the introduction. Good morning to everyone, to all distinguished guests. So in between, we did slight change in the title, but obviously it didn't come through all the documents, but the topic will be similar. So I will be talking, as you said, but even more specifically, transition to green mobility, threats and opportunities. And so this is my outline of the presentation. So I will guide you through slowly, so I will not read this out. So let's say what we are now facing. Green Deal is out. And let's say these are two very important messages that we get from Green Deal. We are very used to this one, so increasing EU's climate ambition. But this one, it's sometimes was not that present till now, and some don't see it that much related to the traffic, but it's very much so toxic-free environment. We will be talking a lot about this because this really changes the things, because currently, ICEs do emit toxic emissions, and toxic emissions are not identical to greenhouse gas emissions. And so this will influence especially these green cities or clean cities, because this might restrict use of internal combustion engines in cities. So I will go deeper in detail in that, but these are two very important aspects in Green Deal. So Europe was mainly now in high-level document exposing climate ambitions, but this was left to local governments, but now we see also on the EU level, so toxic-free environment. So what was also changed? So previously we had -60, now we have -90% reduction of greenhouse gas emissions, and this clearly calls for a paradigm shift in powertrains. So this is now really ambitious goal. And we have in addition directive on the use of renewable sources, which somehow also gives guidelines which renewable sources this could be. And in particular, so we should be careful, we should take care on the crop-based biofuels and similar fuels, because they compete with the food chain. And let's say why this is important for logistics is because heavy-duty vehicles and light-duty vehicles, you see, represent 26 and 12% of greenhouse or CO2 equivalent emissions according to Eurostat 2017. Certainly now this went a bit down due to pandemic, but means that, let's say, logistics is very much involved. So this is threat or opportunity. I would say it's generally a game changer. So threat for those who will not be prepared well for this, and opportunities, especially to gain higher market share, to, let's say, gain advantage over competitors for those who will be very well equipped and prepared for this transition. So I would say this opportunity lies very much in knowledge, but also the organization that each of the companies have that will, let's say, be confronted with this challenge. And now what are the options if we go to powertrains? So we all know there are internal combustion powered vehicles, which are currently majority of the fleet, which is on the roads. Now there are some hybrids around. So in generally, hybrids are those where electric energy is short-term stored in batteries, so in order to increase efficiency. Then we go to plug-in hybrid electric vehicles. So these are now first time the vehicles where we, let's say, add energy via fuel and add energy via electricity. So means these are the vehicles that EU is now heavily promoting because they have longer all-electric ranges, means zero toxic emission ranges. well-known electric vehicles and, let's say, fuel cell electric vehicles, which are heavily pushed by a commission currently due to the fact that, let's say, hydrogen has high energy density, and these vehicles could allow for very long ranges and short refilling times and emitting no toxic emissions. And let's say, then we go further. What is also very important are emissions, because there is no emission, there are emissions, and emissions are very different. So you see there are certainly CO, but you see also here particles. They are toxic, so they are carcinogenic. And there we also see that there are nitrogen oxides, which are also quite toxic. And if we look at them, so there are some emissions that have high global impact and some that have quite local impact. Until now, as was said previously, we're focusing mainly on global emissions, but now also on EU level, there is a strong push to reduce local emissions. And so these are more toxic, these are more environmentally problematic because they have shorter ranges. And you see now here, as was said, so this is towards climate ambition, this is more towards toxic-free environment. And if we now just for a moment look to the global warming, let's say this is not something that I'm against carbon emissions, but let's say carbon is not an enemy per definition. So people now want to say that we would like to decarbonize. If I remember a bit, so or some go even further and say they want to decarbonize society. If I remember a bit organic chemistry or biology, I don't want to decarbonize myself. But what we want to do is we want to defossilize energy carriers. This is an important, different message. And this is what we talk about. And what we are afraid of fugitive carbon. So we put carbon on vehicles that they are lighter. We don't want to decarbonize them. We just want to get rid of fugitive carbon. So this is very important. And let's say if we would be looking just to the carbon, then biofuels with carbon neutral cycle plus internal combustion engine could do the job. But if we in addition now have zero, so toxic free environment, then this does not comply with this. So you see, therefore, this additional paragraph or additional message in Green Deal is very important. And now if we look again about these powertrains, so what we have problems with, so ICs and hybrids, they have problems with toxic emissions. Plug-in hybrids depends on how much we drive on electricity, more to blue, or if we are more ICE driven, more to red. So you see that there are already some problems in the upper part of this diagram. Now, if we look to the energy source, clearly we have here the tank, we have here the battery. And if we now see the interaction with electric lead, here we see none, and here we see very high. Why this is important? Because charging times or dead times of vehicles are very important in logistics. So let's say in cars, we talk about 350 kilowatts max charging, fast charging. This will go up to 0.5 megawatt. In trucks, we are talking about 0.5 megawatt now, 1 megawatt being prepared, but let's say China already prepares 1.6 megawatt. 2 megawatts are, let's say, envisaged. And if we consider then in Slovenia, we have roughly 2 gigawatts production. This means 1,000 trucks fast charging is entire production of Slovenia. Just to give a number, I don't want to scare someone with this, but this is a challenge that we will have to tackle if we go to electricity. So if we further look to this graph, here we have some challenges with charging infrastructure. And if we go to fuel cells, certainly we have to build new infrastructure. So at the end, on state level, some money will have to be invested, but also fleet owners will have to properly, let's say, select their fleet and properly select also, let's say, all energy carriers that they will be able to comply with all the requirements, but also minimize the costs, which is very important. So I on purpose took this slide for European Road Transport Research and Advisory Board, and this message is generally the same. There is no silver bullet. And again, is it a threat or opportunity? Certainly, again, we will have to change. And for For those who will be prepared on this, it's opportunity. For others, this is a clear threat. And now let's look to the life cycle perspective. So why we are doing this? We have now looked just to the vehicle, which means tank to wheel. But indeed, we need to source also the energy in proper manner. So well to tank, but the world sees the entire life cycle. So we have to produce also vehicles, we have to dismantle them, and we have to recycle them. So very important message is not to be half blind and look just to the vehicle, but if we want to really promote global reduction of emission and depletion of resources, we should focus on the entire product life cycle, but this also means entire use cycle of the vehicle. And there I think logistic companies will now play really a big role, because you are spread, let's say, not just in use the so not just buying the vehicles, but also how they are utilized, because heavy duty vehicles produce or use really a lot of energy during their use. And now this I took just from vehicles, so certainly just another representation. If we use electric vehicles, and if we look just on the part where they are used, and if we have green electricity, so there are many ifs, then we are very low in emissions. But currently, still electric vehicles are produced with larger CO2 footprint. In trucks, this is much easier to be offset during the use, but here the message is clear. We have to have green electricity. And this green electricity will really play a major role. So if we just look to global emissions, I will now just put this slide also in. You see that some alternatives as biomethane from liquid manure could be also negative over lifetime, because we prevent methane emissions and stimulate conversion to CO2. But you see there, a lot will need to be done over the entire cycle if you would like, with your bigger companies, to promote that you're really green and contributing to all these goals. And here, yeah, obviously also with ICEs, internal combustion engines, if you would look just to global emissions with a proper energy carrier, they might be well suited, but they have, as said, problems with toxic environment. So interaction with other sectors. I'm here using the US slide because it's very pictorial, and you see here it's transport. And here are so this is basic energy resources. And what we do with electrification. So we are putting the burden on other shoulders. So we don't go with fossil fuel here to petroleum, we go on electricity. And certainly this is a very good pathway, because if with this electricity we end up in renewables, then certainly we have done the job. But if we with this electricity end up again in petroleum, so we have just shifted it. And so therefore this entire cycle is so important. And certainly this is a commercial slide, but what I'm showing it, because again, there is no silver bullet. So you will most probably, the bigger ones will work with hydrogen, will work with electricity, will work still with some fuels. Maybe they're renewable, not fossil. But this means that those of you who will want to really minimize the costs might be entering also, at least in some contracts, or some of you even in some small scale energy businesses, because this will allow you to really drive down the costs. And again, it's about mastering the complexity. So because we don't need just to balance energy, but we need to balance power. So you have to have the energy carrier available at the time when you need it. And certainly you want to have this at minimum costs. So, and now we come to system approach. I took this slide from some Swiss study, and certainly the message is very clear and well known. So there is mobility and transportation demand reduction. So means and logistics, you have to increase the loading of the vehicles. You should do all other measures that you know well, but that we have less demand for moving. Then we should do this as energy efficient as possible. So we have to have efficient drivetrains. And certainly there is then a substitution of energy carriers and energy vectors. And all these things will need to be tackled simultaneously to maximize the objective. And again, now the same graph, but there is a question that it is utmost importance that we use less energy for moving people and goods. And this means, certainly, I have now talked mostly about the road sector, because there you could do really a lot on yourselves, because you will have now to have the choice which vehicles to buy. But certainly there is also multimodality, so which means will you use? So would it be ship, would it be train, would it be airplane? And all this will certainly have very much impact on how green your overall fleet would be at the end. And again, this just increases further the complexity that you will have to deal with. And also, air truck, again, there was a clear statement that sorry, we have to have system approach. So there is infrastructure, there is logistics, there are energy resources, and certainly there are vehicles and powertrains. What I think is very important message here, that environmental goals will not be achieved with reasonable economic constraints just by changing the energy vector. So much more is needed. And I think logistic companies will have a big role in doing a lot in this system approach. And now to-dos and opportunities. I have here used some slides from others. So I'm also active in ARPA, not generally in this logistic task force. And I here on purpose put some, because I do not claim that everything is listed here, but it's a nice list. So there are improved logistic and vehicle utilization. So there are system efficiency with low implementation barrier. You see load factors and things that you know well. And then are high implementation barriers, which go to physical internet, external co-loading, crowd shipping, and other things. And certainly, let's say, then it's up to your business models, how you will, let's say, deal with these challenges. Then are there certainly intelligent transport systems, which are very important, and synchronodality and model shift, which is, again, very important. And now I will just show a few more pictures that I took from the others, but I will try to explain it in the context of this presentation. So certainly, Internet of Things is very important. But here you also see a lot of different vehicles that are around. And now you will also have to properly select which are their powertrains. So not only to minimize global warming emissions, greenhouse gas emissions, but also to minimize the toxic emissions. You see, this is now really a multidimensional problem, because then also goes really a lot where you will buy the energy carriers at what price. And if you will store them by yourselves, you will be hiring storage capabilities and things like this. So it's about certainly moving the goods, but also there is a huge system around how you will move them, that it will be environmentally friendly, green, but also cost effective. Then goes certainly about digital twins. And I think this is really nice sentence that I took, is unprecedented level of insight and visibility of the past, current, and future state of the subject. It can be achieved with digital twins. And certainly, digital twin at the end could be of everything. And yes, let's say certainly first goal is that you, let's say, track your cargo. But furthermore, in the same document which I took from DHL, they also, here it's quite pictorial. So this is an engine, but this might be seen as a powertrain. So also, if you would like really to minimize it, so it's very important, batteries do degrade, and this is costly. Fuel cells do degrade, and this is again costly. So having digital twins that you will also minimize degradation rates of these new powertrain components, which are very expensive, will at the end also contribute to your cost. So it means for those of you who are big, you will have to certainly expand this. And I know the bigger ones are already thinking in that direction, but let's say this really means minimization of the costs in terms of, let's say, vehicle fleet now really enters a much, much higher level compared to what was until now. And certainly now physical internet, you know much more than I in this direction. I would not talk about this timeline, but I see certainly that there will be a significant shift in paradigm if and when this will be introduced. And again, this will have really a strong impact. because there are not just powertrains there. It comes to autonomous driving, it comes to new business models. So this really opens up the box. And again, for those of you who are well prepared for this, this is a clear opportunity advantage. For those of you who are not, this is, I think, a clear threat. And then let's say, I took this slide. Yes, we know digital internet, so there are internets. Internet of Things is there, and physical internet is coming, and there is energy internet. And I was a bit talking about this one, so I don't agree that this is just smart grid, but this is smart energy supply. And I think that you, as logistic companies, will have to live and optimize your work in all kinds of internets. So again, threat or opportunity, or will you need to master them all? I will not give an answer because I think you know it better than I. And with this, I would like to thank you for your attention, and I'm looking forward to some discussion.
Good morning, Professor Katarashnik. Are we online? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, viewers of the Moving Slovenia conference. My name is Borut Hočevar. I'm a journalist at Business Daily Finance, and I'm here to ask a couple of questions to Professor Katarashnik. First of all, Professor Katarashnik, thank you very much for your presentations. It was full of information, full of data, and I always enjoy listening to you. But let me ask, well, starting like this, I have seen many different calculations, different papers calculating how clean cars are. Some people say electric vehicles are cleaner than diesel, some other people say vice versa. And all of them are professors, all of them are PhDs. Whom should I believe?
It's hard to say. You know, I'm also now co-creating the European roadmap for powertrains. And there I think it's quite a clear statement. So, you know, we can measure very well tank to wheel. So meaning what's happening on the vehicle. We can relatively well trace also from well to tank, not fully yet, but this is improving. And there is a complexity because each country is not different. Let's say Poland, Slovenia, and France, they generate electricity in very different manner. And this is also if you look on the average. But if you look really on hourly or on a second basis, how you really drag the power, it's very different. And so also if I do business case or well-to-wheel now case for Slovenia is significantly different when I do it for France or for Poland. But furthermore, if I go to LCA, there is an aim that, let's say, emission or energy consumption tracking is also introduced. But this means that every component supplier will have to have very good specification how much energy he has used for a particular component and how much emissions he has emitted. And after this will be available, we could calculate the things. So here, the main current deficiency are LCA inventories. And EU knows this need, and there will be a lot of money invested in it, that we would have as clear picture as possible. But also said, people very often forget that there are very huge regional differences in energy sourcing, but also in each country now with different providers of the energy, you could in the Slovenia have a business that is much more greener or much less greener based on this where you source your energy vectors from. So there is no unique study. You really have to look case by case and see it.
So what would be your advice to me? I have to make reports on the basis, articles on the basis of these papers. What is important for me to put down to make the story honest?
So let's say currently, no one of us, unfortunately, I have no good answer because I don't have a crystal ball and no one has it. Because it's not just about the techniques. You know, techniques, as we saw, we have currently quite a lot of possibilities. ICE, HEV, PHEV, EV, fuel cell electric vehicle. But how they live, it's not just about the transport. So their decisions should be making on the state level. We have to optimize energy production. We have to optimize energy storage. We have to optimize energy use, but we also have to optimize which sectors are, let's say, if it's much better in Slovenia to invest, that we will move some goods to train, let's say, or we do it by road. And so there is really very complex, multidimensional problem. Let's say some states did already encounter this and they're optimizing. In Slovenia, I think we should still do a step ahead and be proactive, not reactive, meaning that we really read in advance the strategies and try to be proactive and plan in advance, not read the documents and then generate the documents, but we will have to have models that model this. So again, digital twins. And now if you ask me if we all should go to batteries or to hydrogen, I think this is much more complex problem than just of the logistics or just of the transport. This is a problem first of the state, but then of the entire EU. And I think with EU tries to go that way, therefore we also as member states are forced to report. We have to give the documents, they're putting them together in the big picture. But as said, in midterm, there is no silver bullet solution, unfortunately.
Okay, thank you for this advice. There is another question coming out from your presentation. I mean, you compared the environmental footprint of different of railway, of road transport. But my question is, what about the construction works which needs to be done? What do I mean? We have to build many railways. And this means we will produce a lot of CO2 emissions just by building. Is it possible that those calculations are different then?
Yeah, but exactly this is what I was saying. All this is in a proper life cycle analysis. And the problem is that, let's say in a life cycle analysis, this is exactly what you have exposed, why they are so different. Because I can take a vehicle and I take production of the vehicle and I take, let's say, then dismantling and recycling of the vehicle. But I might also take road construction or rail construction, and you know there are no strict rules. And this EU now intends to go a step ahead and really unify and improve this methodology. But in a sincere LCA analysis, all these things are in. And then you have also LCC cost, life cycle cost analysis. And yes, all this needs to be calculated because it does not make a lot of sense that I, on a single vehicle, reduce something for a certain amount if I have created more troubles on the other end. But currently, as said, we are still, or a lot of strategies are done half blind. So looking just as at the part that we want to look at and not at the broad picture.
Okay, let me ask you my last question. You mentioned intelligent transport systems as one of the drivers of reduction the carbon footprint in logistics. But such systems are coming so slowly. I mean, why? Are there technical reasons for it?
Let's say maybe, you know, I'm coming more from powertrain side. I'm maybe not the best guy to ask, but let's say it's how I see this also, but I do a lot of simulations and a lot of modeling. So, but the idea is if there is a clear need, there is also a solution. And I think, you know, that bigger companies are quite well digitalized already in logistics sector, but certainly, you know, now if I invest as a company, I will do something that is best for myself. And everywhere then it comes about standardization, if we can standardize the solution, on how high level we bring these solutions that we can cooperate, coexist. And I think this is now quite a big challenge because, let's say, also those who have invested most, who have really good internal solutions, who are big, certainly want to make advantage of this also. But I would not say that this is a bad thing, but also certainly we have to have very good use cases. Things need to be tested before they are brought to higher levels, standardized and offered to also other communities. So here, as said, I'm really not an expert, but certainly there is evolutionary way because this cannot be just simply state funded and done for one size fits all, but we certainly have to consider specifics. I think bigger logistic companies really already did these steps and they are quite good prepared for this transition.
Thank you very much, Professor Katrashnik. Thank you for your speech. Thank you for your answers to my questions. As I said, it's always a pleasure to listen to you, and I hope I will have a chance to listen to you soon live again. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much also for your questions, and thank you very much to all attendees.
And now CEO and Editor-in-Chief of Finance, Mr. Peter Frankel, will take over the floor and the microphone again. Peter, prosim.
Great, thank you to both gentlemen, Professor Katrashnik, Mr. Hocevar, and now it is my pleasure, my big pleasure, to announce the first panel discussion. I have three distinguished gentlemen with me. Let me announce them. Michal Buban, Head of Development, Go Asset. Michal Buban, Mr. Buban, are you there?
Yes, I am. Hello. Good morning.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Can you hear me? Can you see me?
Yes, I'm online.
Welcome. Go Asset is known in Slovenia for its planned investments into some logistics facilities, the first one in Sežana, close to the port of Koper. Am I correct, Mr. Buban?
That's correct. We are an Austrian real estate development company focused on logistics real estate.
Thank you and welcome. The next gentleman is Mr. Miha Kalčič, Market Manager of Luka Koper in Austria. Mr. Kalčič, are you with me?
Yes. Hi, hello.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
How are things in Austria?
Well, actually, the situation is, I would say, similar as in Slovenia. There is a almost complete lockdown at the moment. A little bit better maybe than the one on the first wave, but anyhow, the situation is, let's say, okay, business-wise also.
Yeah, but I think I heard that everybody is now shopping in Austria. Great shopping sprees in Austria. The stores are open more or less. Is that correct?
Yeah, but with a lot of the restrictions and counting the people going into the stores and so on. So the situation is a little bit better, but still with a lot of restriction as said.
And a great welcome to Mr. Benjamin Concilia, Executive Director, Inter-Europa, Slovenia. Mr. Concilia, welcome. How is the connection?
Thank you. The connection is great so far. Everything good.
How are things in Koper? Do you still have floods?
Well, yes, the last couple of days have been a bit rough, although right now I'm in Celje, but I keep track of the situation down there.
Okay, very good. Gentlemen, all welcome. We have about half an hour for a discussion. The main topic is how the village became the world. But of course, we're going to talk about the pandemic. We're going to talk about how the year is ending, prospects for next year, and what your vision is of the future logistics and supply chains. Now, let's start. Let's start with Mr. Concilia. Mr. Concilia, Inter-Europa has gone through some changes in the last months. You have a new owner. The situation is quite complicated. Logistics is changing. Can you please describe how the year in Inter-Europa is ending and what are you planning for the next year? Very shortly.
Okay, very shortly. Yes, we have a new owner, which is giving us long-term stability. I think that is a really positive thing. And although it has been a year full of unforeseen events where we have seen different developments on in different logistics sectors, so while some of the sectors have experienced really rough times, namely the road transportation sector, let's say in the first wave especially, on the other hand, we have seen a surge of e-commerce, of also air transportation. So it varies a lot from sector to sector within the logistics industry. I must say that after the March-June period, after the rough March-June period, things are going upwards. Things were going upwards and still continue to do so. And we are very optimistic for the next year. Of course, it all depends on this second wave that is now going on, how things will evolve, what kind of restrictions will be put in place. But situation right now, or if we base an outlook on the last 2 months, we are very optimistic about the development. In terms of our planning, what we want to do next year, we certainly need to continue investing in IT support. We have a strong focus on development of our human resources, all of course with sight about the market developments.
Mr. Consigliere, would it be fair to say that the whole situation concerning the epidemic is giving your industry and even your company a boost?
Well, absolutely a boost on specific parts of the industry. As I mentioned before, e-commerce is a big thing that maybe not everyone was talking about before the pandemic, but now it is all around us. And some of the forwarders were well prepared for that. We actually invested in that field already before and are now just expanding on that field. There are other sectors who have experienced rougher times, but there we will also, as logistics companies, have to sort of reinvent ourselves. But yes, I agree with what you said, that it's giving us a boost of a different kind than we might have imagined before the pandemic.
Thank you very much, sir. I would like now to move to Mr. Kalčić. Mr. Kalčić, how would you comment the year that is now slowly fading out and the projections for the next year?
Well, thank you for the question. Well, definitely, as Mr. Consigliere already said, it's been a year full of challenges, and a lot of different conditions have to be somehow changed in our usual business life. I would say, what regards the Port of Koper, it's definitely a different year as the one before. We have been faced with a lot of different situations. The Port of Koper is a multi-purpose port, so meaning we handle a lot of different types of cargo. So as mentioned before by Mr. Consigliere, there's been some sectors or some segments of our throughput, of our traffic, that has been hit more than others. Definitely is the main challenges we are having, and probably we will have for some time, is the automotive industry. This is where, let's say, we handle different types of cargo, from containers to raw materials coming from all over the world, especially in the, let's say, Hungary, Czech Republic, Slovakia. So where do we send, or the customers send via the Port of Koper, their cargo has been hit a little bit harder. On the other hand, due to this situation on a global level, we have seen that we can be, or we are, a very reliable partner. Why am I saying this? Because we have gained also some new cargo, some new, let's say, volumes from different markets that are not, let's say, copper-minded, we usually say. So it's been a very different year, and we are now seeing a little comeback, let's say, from the volumes, for the volumes of the automotive industry. On the other hand, we still have some time, let's say, we still have to wait for some time to be back on the volumes we were handling before.
I know that Port of Koper is a listed company quoted on the Ljubljana Stock Exchange. However, maybe could you just give us a few brief outlines of the expectations for the next year?
No, definitely from our side, what we see also from our customers, we have been talking a lot in the last weeks with customers, of course, online via these new medias. They are all saying that next year, at least the first part of the year, will definitely be still challenging, with a lot of different projects to be developed. But then, let's say, the second part is somehow a little bit more optimistic. So based on that, we can be, let's say, in the Port of Koper also a little bit optimistic for the second part of the year.
Thank you very much, sir. Now going to Mr. Buban. Mr. Buban, we have heard Mr. Concilia, we have heard Mr. Kalčić. Now, I get that Mr. Concilia is very optimistic, and Mr. Kalčić is talking about challenges. How would you comment their feelings about the future?
Well, I would concur with both of them. So basically, it's been a very difficult year for everybody. I mean, but definitely it was a positive year for logistics. So the life has come to stop already for 2 times in many aspects that we know, but and business-wise as well, but not for logistics. So that's the logistics is a backbone of the economy. So we always need, as we consume goods, as we produce goods, we will always need logistics, and I think that's a very positive statement or fact we should acknowledge, that as we work in logistics business, this is the one that has not stopped and that will also continue to work despite the, let's say, the macro environment, and so has been the case also in the real estate. So we have seen a decline in development of retail real estate and partially also of office real estate, but the logistics real estate has continued to boom, actually, driven even more, let's say, facilitated and used by the COVID crisis. So, and we expect this to continue in the next year as well.
Mr. Concilia, Mr. Kalčić, you, Mr. Buban, I myself, we are all Central Europeans. And logistics is an important industry for the region. How would you assess the importance of Central Europe regarding logistics in the times to come? You're investing in real estate, logistics, you're an expert on the field. Where is Central Europe with the Port of Koper, with Inter-Europa, with you, with more facilities to come to Slovenia? Where do you see us in the near future? This is a question for Mr. Buban.
Okay, thank you. We see a really positive development. So on the one hand, what is the result of the COVID crisis is increased focus on e-commerce. So the people still consume goods, as I said, but they don't shop them necessarily in the shops anymore. They focus more on e-commerce shopping, and this has 2 aspects. So first of all, also new age groups are now shopping online. I have to say myself, I never shopped food online until the COVID crisis, and I think there will be more of us listening who have faced the same experience. And on the other hand, there's an increased demand on having everything as soon as possible at home delivered. And this is, let's say, driving force for logistics. It's also a challenge for logistics because it means there will be less goods in the shops and more goods in the warehouses and in the trucks coming to the final customer or in the vans and being there in a shorter period of time, delivered as soon as possible. So that's a driving force for logistics.
Thank you very much. Mr. Concilia, you were stating that e-commerce is giving a boost to the logistics sector. That is all fine. Now Christmas is coming. Mr. Concilia, please help me. I ordered sneakers, shoes 1 week ago from a Slovenian store, and they should be delivered to Ljubljana. The physical distance from the store to my office is 500 meters. And I'm waiting for my sneakers 1 week. When will I get my sneakers? This is a question to lighten up the atmosphere, of course.
I will revert with a similar kind of answer or answer in a similar kind of way. if you can provide me the tracking number, I might be able to help you in that way. And if this has gone through Inter Europa, of course. No, but on the serious side, what you point out is absolutely true. So it is the switch to e-commerce has been really broad in a really big way, and the infrastructure currently is not fully there yet. So that's why we definitely see currently some delays in the deliveries, and that is a task for, on one hand, for let's say for the public sector or for the government to adapt the infrastructure, but of course also for the logistics companies to provide bigger storage areas, to provide bigger cross-dock areas, optimize the delivery lanes, and so on. So yes, this is one of the challenges that we face, and that we are, at least in Inter Europa, very well aware of, and we also have our plans in that respect.
This is all fine. When the news about the vaccine was spread around the world a few weeks ago, some stocks from, let's say, stocks of new companies like Zoom and so forth, their worth declined on stock exchanges. We are expecting a new, but still an old normal. And all this online shopping, I will definitely revert back to physical shopping. And we will revert back also to real life events. Are you now maybe over-investing into e-shopping, new facilities and so forth? A new normality will definitely come back. Mr. Kuncilia.
Absolutely, I agree with you. And that is also something that every company has to be aware of. So we should not base our decisions on what is happening right now. We do need to observe this on a longer term. So when I say we are taking into consideration what is happening right now, it doesn't mean that we want to fully, let's say, just based our decision on the current situation. But the new reality is here, so it will change the customer habits, or the customer, the way the customer is reacting has changed, not in the scale that is seen right now, but in a less, in a limited kind of scale. So yes, we won't overinvest, but we will have to adapt to the situation.
Thank you very much. Mr. Kalčić, projections for the future, they are always very ambiguous. And they are very ambiguous at the moment, of course, even more, because what is going to happen to COVID? How long will this epidemic crisis last? We don't really know. However, even before the crisis, we talked about deglobalization. Now globalization seems to have come back in a way, but we are still talking about a kind of deglobalization where production facilities will be planned closer to the markets. If there's a German business, if it wants to invest into China, into trade with China, it will maybe build the production, I don't know, somewhere close to China. What is all this? And of course, the post-Trump protectionism, in your view, means for the logistics business? Where are we now?
Definitely, there has been and there will be a lot of changes, as already you pointed out in this segment. When it comes to logistics will have to adapt to different business model for different segments, for different branches and industries. This is something that I don't believe that we can change, because a lot of things has been going on in the last month, let's say. A lot of different thinking, a lot of new thinking has been done to somehow overcome these challenges and this situation that we are globally in the world today. Anyhow, a lot of let's say, power, a lot of resources will be invested in logistic centers, in warehouses, in online shopping. So a lot of things will be changing. How this will develop in the near future, and for sure we will see it in the next year, in the next years. On the long run, I believe that there will be a lot of adaptation, a lot of new situations that we have not been aware of as it is today. Nobody, especially let's say from the salespeople perspective, has been thinking that we will meet our clients only online and do not see each other for, let's say, more than a year. So there are new situations that we will have to adapt with investment, targeted investment, try to, let's say, reach or to get the correct point, which could be also a challenge, how to establish the right, or how to make the right decision for the right industry, where to invest, how to invest, and so on.
It seems that we are all worried, and at the same time, some businesses are actually booming, and some regions are booming. China seems to have come back completely. Now, Mr. Buban, in his today's interview for Finance, is stating that there's a lack of containers in China. So we have a problem with some supply chains nowadays. What does this mean for the port of Koper and your connections between Koper and Austria?
Definitely, this is true. We've been, as said before, talking with a lot of different clients in the last weeks. The situation on the container market, especially with the empty equipment in Europe, or I would say globally, is very, very difficult. Due to this fact, the sea freights are reaching astronomical numbers. Usually, let's say, in normal time, in normal business situations, to ship a container from China to Europe would cost 1,200, 1,500 euros or dollars, as you put it. Now, I just have been talking yesterday with a German client and doing business also in Austria. The rates can reach also 7,000 to 8,000 euros. So this is something that nobody has been prepared, and this is affecting also business for all the logistic businesses that are linked to the container segment. In the port, let's say in different ports in Europe, there are piles and piles of empty containers that are not going to the, let's say, port of destination, especially now in this time to China, because they are staying there and the carriers cannot move because of the increased, let's say, demand. For us, what this means is also that operationally we can encounter some problems, because if the carriers are not turning around the containers as previously, it means that they have to leave the containers on the terminals. So the same is valid for Port of Koper, and then these containers pile up for a longer time, which then affects also our operations. And the same situation is in a lot of ports over the world. The difficult situation is definitely in the UK, as I was reading. There are ports that are completely overflown with empty containers, and the situation will not release in the next days. It will take probably a couple of months, and situation will then only after 3, 4, 5 months, especially until Chinese New Year, will not be better.
So the new normal, if there is going to be a new normal at all, is expected for the, let's say, second half of the next year?
I would say so. I was talking with my partners and clients in Austria, and a lot of them are, since the vaccine has somehow been launched in the first countries in the world, they are somehow a little bit more positive about the second part of the next year.
Mr. Buban, how is your view on that? Are we to expect a new normal in the second half of the next year or even before?
Yes, actually, I believe so. I think the things will normalize again. So will the prices. However, what I believe will be induced by this situation is that the companies, both the retail companies and the production companies, they will rethink their strategies, because this disruption, which is currently taking place, will simply lead them to rethink their supplier chain. So just to really again analyze whether they can have some other suppliers, not only those from Far East, maybe suppliers which are closer to their factories or to their customers. And I think this will be the long-term effect, that of course the business with China will continue to grow, but maybe will grow at a lower rate, and the production and both the retail companies will rethink about their supplier basis and where the suppliers are located. So this is on the one hand, and on the other hand, the effect which I think it will have will be on their stock holding. So they will, because the just-in-time concept, so to say, with deliveries of containers from Far East, I think many companies will rethink and will probably opt to increasing their stock capacities, which is again, I think, a positive factor for logistics. It's a different kind of logistics, but the warehouse logistics, I think, will become more important in the years to come.
Mr. Buban, there is so much money flowing around. The central banks are printing and printing new quantities of money. And infrastructure seems to be a viable investment. We in Central Europe, in Slovenia as well, are definitely in need of new investments regarding logistics facilities, for instance, railways, of course, new roads and so forth. The second rail will start, the project will start soon. A new second rail will be built. It's not going as fast as we would like, but some movements are to be seen. And road constructions and so forth. Now, how would you, as an investor in Slovenia, comment the situation regarding the infrastructure investments in Slovenia?
I think they become even more important due to the COVID crisis, because as we all know, European Union has adopted this new strategy, the green strategy, and having this in mind, we have to understand especially the importance of Port of Koper, which it has for Central Europe. It is still the closest port for entry and exit of goods to countries including Austria, Hungary, Slovakia, which are very, let's say, production and business strong countries. And I don't see a reason why all the goods or majority of the goods should be transported through the northern ports if Port of Koper is much closer. And currently, I think the growth of Port of Koper is very much linked to the development of the infrastructure. And coming back to the green strategy, so what will become more important will be not only the economic part, but the CO2 footprint. And it simply takes much less CO2 with the current ships. And I don't think that there will be kind of a new generation of ships which will not produce CO2 emissions in the years to come. That will take decades to change the worldwide ships. So the CO2 footprint of bringing a container to Hamburg are simply significantly higher than bringing it from Asia to Koper. So I think this should be a further motivation and a factor for the development of the infrastructure in Slovenia.
Now, of course, another question for you, Mr. Buban. We are talking about Koper. That is all fine. Koper is a Slovenian port. On the other hand, the Croatian port of Rijeka is closed. Some investments have been going on there as well. Trieste, there's some collaboration between Hamburg and Trieste. Where does this put you, Sežana, where you're investing is close not only to Koper, but also to Rijeka and even closer to Trieste?
Well, we are very lucky and happy about these facts. But again, we believe in the development of all three ports that you mentioned. And as I understand, they are even cooperating together. They are competitors, but at the same time, they are on the same boat versus the northern harbors. So I believe there is a lot of space for growth for all three of the mentioned ports.
Thank you very much, sir. Mr. Kalčić, we are all talking about the green economy, the green boost to the whole of economy and also to the logistics sector, to ports as well. And then there's digitalization and all that, the e-commerce and so forth. Where do you see the Port of Koper in the future regarding the greener economy? Does this bear any weight for the development of your port? Or is it just, nice talk?
No, I can only confirm that the strategy of the Port of Koper is going into the green direction for sure. We are already investing in our, let's say, infrastructure, let's say the hard infrastructure, so meaning new piers, new cranes and so on. But definitely what is on our agenda already today, the green logistics will become more and more important. Why? Because most, or let's say 95% of our equipment on the terminals is electrified. Only some rich takers that are, let's say, not to that day developed are still using some fossil fuel. But on the other hand, most of our equipment, all the cranes, all the, let's say, cranes on the railway and different and smaller rich takers are and forklifts are electrical. So this is one thing that we are investing, and all the new equipment we are acquiring or buying is the latest technology, and all of them, all of them are almost electrical. On the other hand, what are we doing also? Let's say what is our work today is that we would like to invest in the so-called cold ironing. That means that ships, when are coming to Koper, they are berthing and they are plugged in on electricity. Every vessel, every big vessel, especially the cruise vessels that are coming to Koper, are consuming a lot of electricity, and we need first to develop the electrical network in line with the national strategy, of course, and the national electrical manager. On the other hand, this strategy is not so far away. So this is something that we would like to invest. On the other hand, as already mentioned before, the second railway track will bring a lot of these greener transport solutions to the whole region. You have to know that the modal split in the Port of Koper has been already for many, many years in favor of rail. So it means that more cargo is coming and going to the Port of Koper by rail. So we are talking about 59% in favor of rail, and the rest, let's say the other percentage is for truck. So it means that we are already bringing a lot of this greener policy to the market. What do we see also from bigger clients that are using the Port of Koper is they would like to have the whole supply chain to be greener, and they are asking how do we think about the greener solutions, how do we invest, what we will be doing in the near future, and so on. So this is something that definitely for the Port of Koper is an opportunity to gain more cargo in the future. And of course, this is also, let's say, already stated in our strategical orientation for the near future.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kalčić. I will slowly be bringing this discussion to an end. So I have a few more questions, let's say 2 questions. And the first one would go to Mr. Consiglia. And those, the new questions, the questions that I'm going to ask now are, let's say, of a bit lighter, maybe. Mr. Consiglia, please share with me, are you happy that you are working for a logistics company? It actually seems that the future of the whole sector is going to be rosy. Everything will be fine. Everything will be green. There will be more transportation needs. There will be closer supplier chains. Are you a happy business person now?
Oh, I have been a happy business person for the past 15 years, I should say, because logistics is always always changing, always putting a challenge in front of you actually every day. So, and I expect that to continue over the coming year or years that will come. So, yes, I am absolutely happy in terms of myself personally. I know that we have a different situation right now, and we are coping with that as good as we can. And I know that there is a challenging year ahead of us, but I am as I stated at the beginning, I am optimistic while also knowing of the challenges and knowing that we all have to do our homeworks, especially combined in the supply chain, combined with port operators, and of course, on the other hand, with our customers who have a big task in front of them in making their supply chains as resilient as possible. With all the disruptions going on, and I expect there will be in future, there will be new disruptions. So this making the supply chain resilient is the big task that I see in front of us.
Mr. Consilia, thank you very much. Mr. Buban, Mr. Consilia has said, he's saying that there are new disruptions ahead. But please, sir, we are talking about digitalization. We are going through a pandemic situation. Do we want further disruptions? Haven't we seen them all? Please share your view on that, Mr. Buban. Come on, we would like to be normal and happy again. No more disruptions.
Well, there will be, I don't think we can really influence it, but what I know is that we will cope with it, because that's what logistics about, to find the best solution for each problem.
And Mr. Kalčić, to you goes the final question. When do you think the second rail will be ready to use? The second rail from Ljubljana to Koper?
Yeah, I would be in this term very optimistic. We should trust in the company that is, let's say, managing the project. Definitely, the year 2025 is something that we should be looking at. I'm sure that the government and the companies involved will do everything. Definitely, this is something that we as the Port of Koper, but not only, also the logistic providers, also the companies that will be using the second railway track for the whole region. As you mentioned, Port of Koper has a strategical position in Central European, let's say, business environment. This is something that we would like to explore more and more, because we are now, as the Port of Koper, are getting ready for the second railway track with different investment on different terminals. And as said, I would like to be optimistic and say 2025, so 2025 year will be the year when the second railway track will be finished, and then we can finally start to using and explore more business relationships, more cargo, more volume for all the Slovenian logistic companies and all the companies in the region on other markets.
Mr. Kalčić, thank you very much. A big thank you to all three gentlemen. We are all, the audience, I myself, you, we are sharing your optimism. And now let me use this opportunity to wish you a happy new year. Dear ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being with us. Thank you, gentlemen. And now I would like to announce a 10 minutes break. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
All the best.
This is what you usually see. But what about the things in the back? The things that you don't see? How does it work? It works with the desire to cross the line. to be successful at everything you do, to be greater than the fear of failure. It works by understanding that there is only one great competitor in our lives, ourselves. This desire to be the best we can be is an endless game of daily fights against ourselves to do better. With sportsmanship and respect, everything is thought through. Speed, skill, and precision are the new normal. And when things get tough, that's just an opportunity to step up. This is who we are. This is how it works.
Združite zavarovanja poslovnih tveganj svojega malega ali mikropodjetja in prihranite do 25%. Triglav podjetniški komplet. Zavarovalnica Triglav.
Dear viewers, ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome to the second part of the Moving Slovenia conference. The title of this section is Business as Usual or Time to Green, with question mark at the end. As the title says, we'll talk about the reducing of the carbon footprint in logistics. Cargo makes up a large portion of carbon emissions, and especially in Slovenia, it's very difficult to reduce emissions from many sorts of transport. But what can we do about it? We will talk about this challenge with two experts. They are both dealing with international cargo, but they come from different sectors. One works for an industrial company and the other is an important part of a logistic company. Our speakers are Herr Alfons Dax-Wiesinger, Director of Logistic Network at Magna Steyr from Graz. Guten Morgen, Herr Dax-Wiesinger.
Guten Morgen, danke für die Gelegenheit. Thank you for participating.
And the second speaker is Gospod Peter Janežič, Director of Slovenia Rail Cargo Group. Dobro jutro, Gospod Janežič.
Dobro jutro, welcome to everybody.
And my name is Borut Hočevar. I'm a journalist of Business Daily Finance, and I will moderate this part of the conference. However, I ask you to accept the apology of the third announced speaker, the Director of Main Truck and Bus Slovenia, Mr. Klaus Wallenstein. Unfortunately, Mr. Wallenstein was unable to attend our conference. So the schedule is like this. Each of our speakers will have a presentation first. After both presentations are finished, there will be a discussion in which both speakers will participate. Mr. Dax-Wiesinger, we plan that you are the first speaker. If this is okay with you, please, microphone, the floor, and the screen, they are all yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Hello to everybody who is participating in this interesting conference. Thank you very much that I have the chance to present our approach for green logistics, any projects, some projects I would like to present today. First of all, just a short introduction to myself. I joined Magna in 2002 and I worked since then in logistics. In this case, I'm responsible for logistics network, and that is everything what is dealing with transportation, external logistics, so dealing with the supply to our assembly plant in Graz. And also in Slovenia, into Hoče. First of all, I would like to present to you Magna International. That is our mother company. It's a almost $40 billion company in 2019 sales. We have about 157,000 employees worldwide, and are dealing with automotive around the globe. Specifically in Graz, there's one product group, and that is Magna Steyr, who deals with the engineering and the vehicle production for passenger cars. Although we have one location in Graz, Austria, we have also other locations for vehicle assembly in China, for example, and vehicle development and engineering. We have offices around the world near to our customers. We call us the number one in the world for multi-OEM vehicle contract manufacturing. We have about 120 years of experience, and also in terms of engineering of new vehicles, we have about 4,000 engineers in a global network dealing with these topics. In Graz, so far we have built about 3.7 million vehicles for our customers, and there was about 30 models produced for 10 customers up till now. So that was just a short introduction of my company. Now let's get into the topic of green logistics. As everybody knows, sustainability can be split into or shows three pillars. One is the economic sustainability, the social sustainability, and the ecological sustainability. And I will focus on this green logistics in this speech only. What are our priorities, or what is our approach in terms of sustainable transport logistics? I can say we can see three steps or three actions what we can take. First of all, you have to know what your CO2 emissions are. So first of all, you have to set up a report. That doesn't improve anything, but at least you understand what your emissions are and what you can focus on. So that is the first step, in my opinion, that you have to set up. The second one is to avoid or to reduce any CO2 emissions. So that means you have to minimize, for example, we have set up a tool to calculate the total cost of ownership. So you have to understand what the costs of your transportation, for example, is, and all the other costs of logistics. And what we found out in this project was that the idea is to calculate the optimal delivery frequency. And in most of the cases, more than 95% of the cases, it's reducing the delivery frequency. So if you calculate the total cost of ownership, you see you can reduce the delivery frequency, which means less transportation, better cubed out trucks, and so on. The second one is that we use an optimization software, a transport management system, to optimize the routes and also to minimize the transportation that takes place. So maximize the trailer cubing, use the optimal trailer type to cube out the freight and the trailers, and to optimize the routing of the transportation. And even more important, you don't have even demands day by day. You need to do a daily balancing of loads, and the main goal is to cube out the trucks in order to eliminate unnecessary transportation. So that was the second step, so avoid or to reduce the transportation. And the third approach, or the third step, would be to substitute. So that means use alternative modes of transportation. First of all, of course, use rail solutions, but on the other hand, also use other technical solutions, alternative propulsion systems for trucks. And of course, that is also a development that has started a couple of years ago, but will continue in the future as well. In my speech, I will focus on the third step, which means I will show you some examples of projects we have done in the past and what we're currently doing, where we substitute the normal truck transportation with other systems. So the first project is a rail project where we changed from truck transport to rail transport. And that is, right now, everybody talks about Brexit. So there was a rail project from the UK to Austria and vice versa. And we have started a couple of months ago to investigate whether there is a possibility to do this transportation on rail or in a combined multimodal transportation. And we found a service provider who could provide that possibility, because I guess for rail that is quite important to mention. It's quite difficult, even for a bigger company, a bigger shipper. It's quite difficult to fill up a complete train. So you need to have a product, a logistics product available, a service provider available that has set up such a solution and where you can participate. So what we did was we focused on all full truckloads and all milk runs based out of or sourced in the UK, and we moved that onto this intermodal solution. Right now we have it's about 12 suppliers in the UK with daily shipments. It's about 50, depending on the volume per week. It's about 50 to 70 truck pickups per week, and it's picked up by local drivers and trucked into the UK ports, Killingholme and Purfleet. And from there, it's an unaccompanied ferry crossing from the UK ports into Rotterdam. And in Rotterdam, we put the trailers onto a train. The train leaves 4 times a week, Rotterdam towards Vienna, and vice versa. And of course, the target will be to increase this to at least 5 departures per week or more. If volume increases, then maybe 6 or more. But we basically have almost daily shipments coming into Vienna, and from Vienna then we'll put the trailers again onto the road and ship it to Graz by truck. The equipment, quite important for automotive industry, is mega trailers. So we need the 3 meters inner height because our goods are high in volume, not too much in weight, but high in volume. So we need these large trailers. They are 100% GPS monitored, and what we can ensure here really is that we do that in a quite efficient, sustainable, and digital way. And even more important, it's the only problem is really that it takes 1 day longer than on the road, but that is quite worthwhile to do it. You see the operation here with the cranes in the ports, where the trailers, the complete trailers, including the wheels of the trailer, are put on the rail wagons and back to the road. And I just wanted to mention, because of Brexit, we are running in the UK with local drivers, so they are used to the road, so we don't have any issues with licenses or something like that. So we have local drivers. It's also kind of social responsibility that they could be at home at night, for example. So that's also some convenience for the drivers. What we expect also is, because this is a quite stable process and a very structured process, that we should have also less issues with the upcoming Brexit and the border crossing starting January 1st. So that was also another reason why we have chosen this solution. We have started this solution back in September with some test shipments, and now we have moved all of our shipments already onto the rail, and it's running quite smoothly. So that was our first project. I would like to move on to e-mobility in logistics. I will show you basically 2 examples two examples of e-mobility. One is that we do some local shunting within our plant, or it's an offsite location to the plant, where we put bodies of one car on the trailer. And the second one is the first OEM built e-truck that we have in Graz as well. What is some general comments? What is the issue with alternative propulsion systems? Of course, you understand that we have battery electric vehicles. They are quite common already in the passenger car sector, but on the heavy duty vehicles, it's still not available a lot. So most of the trucks you can get is converted from a diesel truck to a battery electric vehicle. So you can't get so many serial produced trucks with batteries. And that, of course, is because of availability, that is an issue. But on the other hand, it's very difficult because the battery needs quite high capacity, and that, of course, is quite expensive as well. So you have very high initial costs in terms of the truck and the battery, as well as the charging infrastructure. But, and that's what I can show you, if you have very customized solutions, it is already today economical viable. So there is a possibility to do that, but it's really a very customized solution. The second one is on the long distance trucks. There you still have issues with battery electric vehicles. You have very limited driving range, and right now it's less than 150 kilometers, and then you need already some huge battery. And the other alternative would be fuel cell electric vehicles. Those solutions are by far not available, so you don't have any serial vehicle that is produced yet. They're announced of some manufacturers, but more for the local distribution. So with distribution vehicles, but not for tractors for long distance trucks. So currently we see LNG, liquefied natural gas, as a viable option and an improved solution where you can at least reduce the amount of CO2 emitted. It's called a bridge technology. So it's not the final solution. It's not really the absolute green solution, but it's a viable option on the road to go. Of course, what we still have is missing infrastructure for filling stations. I will mention that in our solution that we partnered up with an energy supplier, and they built one near the Graz. But that is really a restriction for launching this technology. Right. So I will start with the first electric truck that we have implemented. Like I said, it's a really unique, customized solution, and that is necessary to have also an economic viable solution implemented. So what we have done is we have connected an offsite a body shop location with the central paint shop in Graz. It's a distance of approximately 1.3 kilometers, where we transport two bodies at once from the body shop to the paint shop in a for production, for painting. It's an absolute silent operation because that's also a main benefit for electric trucks. They are quite low in noise. We don't have any local emissions. We eliminate the refueling time, so we don't have to go to a refilling station because we have an automatic charging station in the unloading dock or loading dock. So when the trailer gets back to the dock, then it's automatically recharged. The battery is automatically recharged at the dock. So the driver does not have to go outside and put a plug in. It's by driving back to the dock, it's automatically linked with the charging. The efficiency of an electric truck is by far better than a diesel truck, so we save energy over lifetimes. It's about 65% reduction. We can run up to 24 hours use, so and we have done that already. It's a 3-shift operation. And in this 3 minutes parking time, we do the automatic charging. So with each docking, we do the charging, so it's every 10 minutes you charge the vehicle by 3 minutes in 3 minutes, and that is really the benefit of it. You don't have any waiting time or charging time that you lose in that kind of process. So therefore we can say it's really affordable over the project lifetime, even though the implementation costs of the truck and so on was significantly higher than with the diesel truck. By saving the energy costs over lifetime, that gives you the return of investment. So that was really that is really a viable option. And that's what I can conclude here. If you have a concept that fits exactly that kind of needs you have, then it is also economical, viable that you implement such project. We can use quite a small battery because we continuously charge the battery, so that reduces the cost as well. The second e-truck we have implemented was that we have a private association where we participate. It's the Council for Sustainable Logistics, together with other partners in the food industry, retail industry, and logistics companies. We initiated a project with MAN, and they developed heavy battery electric vehicle trucks for urban areas. We were the only company that received a tractor. All the others have distribution trucks. But in 2018, we have received one of 9 pre-series trucks for field testing. And this truck is now running between our external logistics center and the plant for local shunting in a 2-shift operation. It's going back and forth. So the distance, what we run per day is about 100 kilometers. In a 2-shift operation. During the loading and unloading, we put also the plug into the truck, so there's no automatic charging, but we do that manually. But yeah, it's working. The local emission, the local emissions are of course 0, and since we're using also CO2 neutral energy, we are running energy neutral with those e-trucks. Now let me get to the last project we have done and implemented, and that is the long distance solution, and where we have implemented LNG powered trucks for our transportation between the plant in Graz and our plant in Hoce, near south of Maribor. The target was, or the goal was, that we would like to implement a sustainable concept for this transport of bodies between those two locations. The round trip is about 150 kilometers. If we considering a 3-shift operation, the trucks would have a driving distance per day of about 900 kilometers. So that's quite a huge distance. So that's really long distance, and the road is all, or almost everything is a motorway. The 97% is motorway, and we don't have very steep inclines or declines. So it's basically two areas where we have an incline, but basically it's on the elevation profile is quite smooth, and it's not very big challenge. So that is the requirements. What we have investigated in a very comprehensive feasibility study was, could we do it with a battery electric vehicle, with a fuel cell electric vehicle, or with an LNG? Diesel, of course, was out of scope, but of course we compared it also with a diesel truck. If you can see here the summary of the feasibility study. So, and I mentioned that already, that the vehicle availability is not given on the fuel cell electric vehicle. On the battery electric vehicle, you just get reconstructed vehicles. You don't get any serial produced vehicles yet. That will change within the next couple of years, but up till now we didn't have that. But the LNG, the liquefied natural gas, that was available. You have serial produced vehicles, so that was not a big issue. The infrastructure, both for the battery electric vehicle, but also the fuel cell electric vehicle, has to be constructed. So there was nothing available. Of course, with a battery electric vehicle, it's easier because you only need charging stations. On the fuel cell electric vehicle, you need to have H2, and you have to have such filling stations, and which is not available at all in Austria, but also not in Slovenia. In Austria, you just have one for cars, but not for trucks, and that's a complete different technology. The filling station for LNG was also not available, but we partnered up with an energy supplier, and they built a filling station near to our plant at the Graz airport, right next to the motorway, which is quite convenient and could be used also for us other customers and other trucks. The technical feasibility is possible, although battery electric vehicles and also fuel cell electric vehicles, you don't have very much experience in the serial in operations. So the reliability of the trucks and also the charging is not yet given. So that was also an issue or a risk for such a high reliable operation that is needed. The technical feasibility on the LNG was absolutely given. It's approved technology, and is a very low risk on that. The economic feasibility is on fuel cell. You need a lot of investments, a very high cost, but also H2 is not available in a very cost-effective way. So it's very, very expensive, and it's not the green H2 what you would need. So if you just need get the gray H2 right now, which is made out of petrol as well. so you don't have the benefit of the CO2 reductions. So economically, also both the battery electric vehicle, where you have the high battery costs and charging devices, also the LNG has most of the benefits. So it is right now still not feasible to use battery electric vehicles or fuel cell electric vehicles for this kind of operation, but LNG is the solution of choice. Right, LNG, just some figures still. You reduce your engine noise by over 50%. NOx is reduced by almost 30%. CO2 about 20-25% reduction, and fine dust is almost reduced by 100%. So it is a benefit compared to the newest diesel technology. And that was the reason then that we have chosen that. The project benefits is a combined benefit. So we used also a special trailer for this, where we could load 50% more bodies onto the trailer. So it's an over-length and oversized trailer. Therefore, we also reduced, only due to the fact that we can transport more bodies on the trailer, we reduce the cost of this. On the other hand, the cost of the LNG truck compared to a diesel truck would be cost neutral. The ecological savings is more than 300 tons of CO2 we could reduce per year. So what I would like to say with this project, but also with the other ones, green logistics and economy, it both could work. I hope that was quite interesting for you. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dag Wiesinger. Thank you for your presentation. You gave us really a deep insight into the future-oriented company. Your information of transport between Graz and Maribor is also very important for Slovenia and for the people close to those transport links. Now I hand over the microphone and the screen both to our next speaker, Mr. Peter Janežič. Mr. Janežič, you are Director of Rail Cargo Group Slovenia, which is a member of Austrian Federal Railways, Österreichische Bundesbahnen, right?
Yes, exactly. Exactly, yes. Do we hear each other?
Yes.
Okay, so let me start first also with a short presentation of the company, as Mr. Dag Wiesinger also did, and then let's focus on the, let's say, more ecological topics. So, as you can see, so the Rail Cargo Group is quite a big company. We have yearly about 2.3 billion euro sales revenues. Maybe also to give you just some idea about the size of the company, we are moving approximately 105 million tons per year, of course, in more or less in the Central Europe. And what to say? It's quite important also that we are on the positive side of the balance sheets, and we are, let's say, bringing some profit to our stakeholders. We are also one of the biggest owners of the wagon fleet in the Central Europe, with more than 26,000 freight wagons. So we are present in 18 countries, let's say. We have two, let's say, domestic markets, of course, Austria and Hungary, but with our own traction, railway undertakings. Also, we are present in 12 countries. Yeah, if we go further to, let's say, more ecological point of our presentation. So we strongly believe that rail is the sustainable logistic backbone of the 21st century. And we as rail logistics experts are developing and materializing customized, often multimodal solutions. I don't know if Magna is using actually the rail cargo group for their new project from United Kingdom, but I strongly believe so, that this is the case. And we also strongly believe that we should set new standards in the industry. So already at the beginning of the conference, a lot was told about the, let's say, European regulation, European Green Deal. The EU is fighting the climate change through the ambitious policies. And by, let's say, 2030, we should reduce our emissions at least by 55%. Even more, let's say, ambitious is the goal to become by 2015 the first, let's say, climate neutral continent in Europe. And of course, this is again let's say, with all these policies, we strongly believe that railway really could support the economy in the following years to achieve these goals. As part of these European policies, let's say, coalitions, projects, Rail Cargo group is, let's say, quite present in all the bodies, railway bodies, and one of the also important thing is that Rail Cargo group is also a member of Rail Freight Forward coalition. This is a European Rail Freight coalition, so with the members from, let's say, the majority of European countries. And our goal is to increase the share of the rail freight across Europe to 30% by 2030. So why I have said to increase the share in the modal split across Europe to 30%, because some of the countries already, let's say, achieve such targets, but it's also important in the railway freight segment, which is, of course, international, that also the neighboring countries and the countries, let's say, in the whole Europe achieve such goals. So this is important, why we have to also connect all the companies together to achieve such goals. So you can see that actually in Austria, rail model share in the total split is already somewhere near 30%. And this is what we have to fight for also across the Europe to achieve this, let's say, sustainable goals set in the EU policies. In Austria, we are currently one of the benchmark, let's say, countries. However, the freight transport, like I have said, is already international business, and this is why we are let's say, committed to increase this modal split. And we have to know also that if we want to achieve this, we have to also do our homeworks. First of all, the railway sector in the past, in the general public, it is, let's say, considered as slow as unreliable, to some extent also expensive. So we really have to do our homework, and also in the railway, increase the productivity, increase the quality, and we can do this, we strongly believe this, with digitalization, with the investments in the infrastructure, in our resources, which I will also explain maybe a little bit later, a little bit more. So the quality is really highly connected to uniform high performance infrastructure throughout the whole Europe. So in our group, we are strongly also doing all what we can to let's say through these groups to influence and to persuade the infrastructure manager to implement all the necessary measure, technical standards with which our, let's say, interoperable solutions would be possible. So we are here speaking about the border crossings, the quality of the infrastructure, and so on. And also the third quite important topic is that we need a level economic playing field. This means that we need cost transparency between rail and road, which includes also the external costs like CO2 emissions, safety, and traffic jams. So if we are speaking about ecology and sustainability, we have to really consider also the external costs of the various transport modes. And only this, all three conditions will be let's say, considered. Then we can increase the share of railway in the modal split, and look bright into our future. Some of the facts which are let's say the numbers are changing always. You have various studies and so on. But the fact is that European rail freight causes much less external costs to society than road transport. Rail transport is also much uses less energy consumption and causes fewer CO2 emissions and less air pollution. So like I have said, the ratio is changing, and also the road transport with new advanced, let's say, propulsion systems and initiatives is always closing and changing this gap. So also the railway should be really fast and active to improve also itself. So just one idea about the CO2 emissions. So rail freight transport in Austria saves 1.1 million tons of CO2 emissions, and if we would put this into the let's say foresting comparison, this would mean 1/3 of Vorarlberg, which would have to be forested in order to absorb the amount of CO2 which is in our case not coming. So at the beginning of the presentation, we were also speaking about the COVID, the COVID issues and let's say the challenges which COVID brought to railway and in transport in general. We can say that during the COVID time, especially in the first phase of COVID, railway was really performing quite good. So let's say with systematic approach, we were, let's say, the backbone of the supply of the critical goods to the economy. We didn't face any traffic jams at the borders like the trucks did. We did all the transport in our single wagon network more or less without bigger problems, and of course everything with connected with this extensive production network that we have in place. But for sure, we are still suffering because of the COVID. Also in Slovenia, in general, there are our production, let's say, employees which are affected by COVID, and we do to some extent suffer the let's say the consequences, but I strongly believe that with all the project in place that we are currently doing, we will be able to come out of this COVID crisis more stronger than before. I also strongly believe that we have shown that railway really is the backbone of the economy in the crisis times. Yeah, let's speak also about innovations, which have to be done in the railway. Like Mr. Dax Biesinger also said, there are some innovations already, especially in the multimodal segment, which are already proven efficient and are already moving the cargo from road to rail. One of the most important things is to have appropriate equipment. In rail cargo, we have a project called Transcend, which is actually the development of the new underframe of the wagon. This is the main feature is that these wagons are really light wagons, and the superstructure of these wagons can be easily changed. So the wagon is more or less equipped with ease of fittings for normal containers, but the superstructure can be built according to the needs of our clients. So with new equipment, we should come closer to our clients and fulfill their needs. So our equipment should really be renewed. Anyway, so smart cargo. We are also not only, let's say, the hardware, also the software of the equipment should be improved. We are running so this called Smart Cargo project, where the wagons are equipped with telematics and enable to our clients tracing, not only to our clients, also the quality of the transport increases and so on. In the railway was also considered as let's say loud, and we are doing also a further step to have quiet freight cars. So we are equipping all the wagons with quiet souls. There is already in place a new regulation for Germany, Switzerland, where we cannot run with 2021 with old souls. So all the wagons which are running in Germany and Switzerland from 2021 should have quiet souls equipped, and this is one of the things that we are also doing to our equipment. One of the reasons in Europe, which causes also quite a lot of work on shunting yards, is also the coupling, and we strongly believe that new initiative for a digital automatic coupling would increase, let's say, the quality of the rail freight transport, especially on the shunting yards. We would increase our productivity and also the transit times. But most important in our, let's say, innovations are, of course, infrastructure. Infrastructure is, of course, the question of the infrastructure managers, but nevertheless, we are following also all the technical standards for interoperability. When we are speaking about locomotives and equipment, we have to know that in Europe there are several standards for electricity, and for this we have to also have sufficient number of interoperable locomotives which can run in different states. The sole purpose of this issue is to avoid border jams, to run through borders without any stops, so our locomotives can run through the borders only with locomotive driver change. But in the last few years, we have made also really big step forward to avoid this stopping at the border, also for the locomotive drivers to change. In order to do this, we have started with the licensing of our log drivers. For example, also in Italy, in Croatia, our company, for example, in Croatia started the licensing of their drivers in Slovenia, and we already have some quite respectful number of log drivers which can run in both states, also with Italy and Austria. So with such projects, we can avoid queues on the border crossings, and we can run with our locomotives, for example, from Austria to Koper, or let's say from Hungary to Italy, without the locomotive change and without locomotive driver, to some extent, at least on some sections. But we are further developing these projects, and we strongly believe that also the borderless is one of the major projects we should run in the future. Just today, our president of the board was also participating in the conference organized by RNE, and I have to be proud that he also pointed out such cases of borderless projects that we are running currently also in Slovenia, Austria, Croatia, and Italy, to be really the backbone of our projects, and I'm more than happy that he also mentioned this at the RNE meeting. This is the wagon which I already mentioned, so it's so-called Transant wagon. It's quite light, and this also increases the possibility to have a higher net load on the wagon. Digitalization. So we were speaking about digitalization. We are taking digitalization in our rail cargo group quite seriously. So and we are running really a lot of digitalization projects. So one of these digitalization project is SmartLink. So we have tried to create the new platform for our clients, where our services are quite easily presented, and you can find it's really nice, accessible, and we can do this. So I wouldn't go too much into the detail. If we are speaking about digitalization, so we are speaking also about, let's say, new possibilities that, let's say, some special equipment brings. In Italy, we have started with one project, for example, to digitalize the technical inspection of the wagon, where the technical inspector wears some special goggles, which enable the monitoring of the total technical supervision of the train before the departure, and with such let's say technical solutions, we increase the quality, we decrease the number of possible failures on the wagons. We have available data in the system with photos, with possible let's say claims from the clients. The whole system is let's say running into direction that on all levels we try to digitalize our company. Also in Slovenia we are running a few similar projects in the railway segment. Currently we are under, let's say, the change of generations. A lot of our older colleagues will go into retirement in the next few years. We strongly believe that this, let's say, this phase of giving the knowledge to younger generations can bring also the boost into the digitalization. So in our case, also in Slovenia, we have projects where younger and older people are working hand in hand together, boosting this digitalization. And I'm really happy that, let's say, the younger generation is bringing new ideas together with the, let's say, experience of the old colleagues. I would just like to show you a few connections that we are having in the company. You can see the let's say the focus that we have in rail cargo, but not to be too long. Maybe just to mention the new railway connections to Asia, China, which have proven to be the right direction of our, let's say, activities, and yeah, we are quite happy that it's functioning quite good, and we are, let's say, on a monthly basis adding new services to and from China as well. But you can see also the Koper, Trieste, Rijeka, and Venice as the key ports. So the cooperation with all the ports is also quite important for the group, and yeah, we try to expand the network as much as we can. Okay. We have also another digital project called Mike, so which is actually the, let's say, some digital assistant also for our clients. In the so-called Mike platform, we also enable digital services, tracing, invoicing, so clearing, and other, let's say, personalized features to our clients. This platform is also being extended with new features practically on a daily basis. So much from my presentations, but I strongly believe that I will get some additional questions. So,
thank you very much, Mr. Janežić. Thank you for your presentation. We got a really good idea of how modern logistic and transport and rail transport look like. I've got a long list of questions for our discussion. We are closing to the end of our time, so I will have to make my list a bit shorter. Mr. Dag Wiesinger, my first question would go to you. You presented us the greening of the logistic of Magna Steyr, but what about the company's plans for the decarbonization of company as a whole? I mean, if such a decarbonization is possible in your sector.
Yeah. Yes, it is. So we have made a commitment already that our entire company we look for CO2 neutrality by 2022. So all of our actions and projects we do inside the plant for mainly production focus on that target.
Does it mean 2022 also your Magna Hoce will be climate neutral?
Production, correct.
Okay, sounds great. Mr. Janežić, you mentioned a bit the Corona crisis. One of the results of it is expected shortened supply chains. So what does it mean for European logistic companies? How international companies change their business models because of it?
In general, so if the supply chains will get shorter, I strongly believe that we can only benefit as a European economy. But in general, on the other side, everybody knows that railway transport is more efficient and on longer routes. So if you ask me, we have to invest considerably in our infrastructure, not only as somebody would think in the rails in the second line from Koper to Divača and so on, but also in the logistic centers, like it was already mentioned by Mr. Concilia at the beginning. We should invest in logistic centers which will be able to consolidate and to deliver the goods to the final clients. If we want to move the goods from road to rail, then we need really efficient logistic centers, like also Mr. Dag Wiesinger also presented in his first case. This is already something which is going on, and I was really happy that he presented such case, because the general public is actually avoiding such products. But all such products should be highly individually personalized for each client, and only with such initiatives we can expect some positive results.
Thank you. Mr. Dag Wiesinger, there was a challenge in the speech of Mr. Janezic about how Magna uses the services of Rail Cargo Group. Can you answer this challenge? Is there a possibility that Magna, let's say, move a part of its cargo from road to railway, for instance, from Vienna, which you said, to Graz, or from Hoce to Graz?
Right. That's a very difficult question. And I could answer for an hour approximately. But first of all, the question Mr. Janezic mentioned, our partner is a logistics provider, so and he's using a rail carrier. And what I'm aware of, it's currently not the Austrian Railways, but anyways, the benefit of rail is if you transport a lot of goods from one point to the other point. So it's a point-to-point connection, and you need a lot of volume. So and it makes more sense if the distance is larger than on short distance. So if we say between Hoce and Graz, for example, that's only 75 kilometers on the road. I guess that will not be economically viable to do it by rail. So the infrastructure is not there, and the truck is much more flexible, and you don't need such huge volume of a complete train at once in the other plant. So you need continuous flows. So I guess there are benefits for rail and there are benefits for truck. So and I guess we have to be careful not to mix that up, and of course we can close the gap and make rail more flexible and trucks more greener, but I guess the gap cannot be closed in the very near future.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Janezic, second part of my Corona question to you. What changes can we expect or will you make in your company, Rail Cargo Group, because of Corona crisis?
So for sure we have implemented some new standards, but not really so much into, let's say, changes just because of the Corona. Not really that I would say that just because of Corona we would change our, let's say, processes, if I understood correctly the question.
Okay, Mr. Dag Wiesinger, as you mentioned, LNG charging points are the main issue in this transport. How is the situation in Austria or in Slovenia, if you follow it? Do you expect there will be some more charging points in the near future?
There are plans to do that, although right now for our use case we have one, so it's a little bit of a risk. So if there is a technical issue, for example, at the filling station, we have an issue, and we had one already, but there is a risk. Right now, there is a plan to open up filling stations every 800 kilometers, and then it goes down to 400 kilometers. So there is a plan, but for this use case, I don't see a concrete plan for the next couple of years.
Mr. Janezic, Rail Cargo Group is a leading player in rail logistics from Europe to East Asia. Does the rail cargo have an advantage there over ship and air transport?
Yes, this is quite an interesting question. So also Mr. Kalcic in his presentation mentioned that currently the prices of container transports in sea shipment is really going up, and they have crazy prices. Let's let's say nobody knows what they can expect. On the other side, the air freight is quite expensive and also not so let's say interesting for some because of this. But railway is just somewhere in the middle. Let's say the price. Transit time ratio, let's say, is more and more interesting for some clients, and this is also the reason why the number of these let's say shipments is rising. Although I have to mention that probably without the severe funding from the Chinese state, this would also not be so interesting. So, but currently the Chinese government is also investing quite a lot into this railway Silk Road, and yeah, we are gaining out of it. So, yeah. Like I have said, so the price, apparently the costs comparison between let's say rail freight and sea freight from Asia to Europe is closing down.
Mr. Dag Wiesinger, one more LNG question. When can we expect the first LNG truck between Graz and Hoce, or when can we expect all of them will be LNG?
Right now, all of them are LNG, so we have implemented already. Unfortunately, the plant is idled right now due to the capacity needed for production. But we have the trucks replaced or implemented, so it's 100% LNG.
Mr. Janicic, does your company shorten the transport routes in current situations?
Yes, like I have said, so this is the main purpose of all our these initiatives is to speed up the transit times of our trains. So all these borderless projects are just done just because of this. Also, for example, these connections to China. For example, one train from China to Vienna needs approximately 17 to 20 days. Is also this time, transit time is going down. So we are decreasing also this. But yes, so if I can give you a comparison, so with technical inspection at the border, train has to be stopped for, let's say, at least 2 to 3 hours. They have to wait for the passenger trains because they have priorities and so on. But without the technical inspection on the border, if we are running the trains without technical inspection on the border, in so-called confidence, technical confidence, we overtake them, then we avoid this waiting time of 2-3 hours at the border, and of course this is then shortening our let's say running times. And yeah, we still have some challenges. Slovenia, for example, is we have Schengen border with Croatia. In Dobova, we are facing severe police controls of our trains, and this is also maybe the place to mention to the to Slovenian police and to Ministry for Infrastructure that these times could be shortened with new equipment at the border, which could enable quicker inspection of possible refugees on the trains and so on. So, like I have said, in Dobova we have a special case because it's a Schengen border and we still have to face waiting in Dobova. But on the other side, let's say we did our part of the job, but what can we say? We are still standing in Dobol because of the let's say, state regulation, which is not connected with railway transports at all, but because of the refugee crisis. On the other hand, on some other borders, there is always some specific situation, but so we can speak about each border crossing separately. So, but anyway, we are decreasing the running times, and yeah, this is possible only with schooling of our staff, young people. They're really keen to learn new things and to implement all these new technologies, and I can be only proud of our staff.
Dear speakers, we are coming to the end of our time, so my last questions to you. Mr. Dag Wiesinger, I would be really unhappy not to ask you about your electrical truck. Can you give us some details? How much time, how long does it take to charge from 0 to 100%? Which is the capacity of battery?
Right. We have for each of the we have 3 trucks in place. We have different capacities on battery, but also different charging strategies. So, like I said, on the body shop shuttle, there is only a small battery in there with 87 kilowatt hours. And on the other 2, it's roughly 150 kilowatts per hour, kilowatt hours, excuse me. The shuttle is charged continuously during loading and unloading, so I can't tell you how long it takes because it's continuously done. On the other ones, it's overnight because we don't have a quick charger. We just use the regular currency connection we have. So it's not a quick charger. It's also not necessary because what we do is the main charging is during night because it's just a 2-shift operation, and during the day we just put it and plug it in a short term.
Thank you. Mr. Janežič, my last question to you is, what plans do your company have in Slovenia?
So currently we are present also with our production. On a daily basis, we have about 15 locomotives in Slovenia, 70 log drivers, and so on. So we expect to steadily grow also in Slovenia. Of course, we are cooperating with Slovenian Railways really good, and we expect also for the future to have a really nice strategic cooperation with Slovenian Railways as well. You know that Slovenian Railways are currently being privatized partially, and so the cargo part of the Slovenian Railways. But nevertheless, so like I have said, digitalizations, new processes, better quality, this is what we hope for, and I believe we are on a good way to implement these new technologies. So let's say that we will be able to connect also I must mention here the port of Koper, and also for the rail cargo group, the port of Koper always was and is strategically very important, and I strongly believe that this cooperation will be there for the future as well. So we are always having our eyes also on the activities in the port of Koper, and we closely follow for all the investments there, and we look forward for our future here in Slovenia.
Thank you, Mr. Janežič. Thank you, Mr. Dag Wiesinger. Thank you for the informative presentations that you have, and thank you for answers to my questions. Thank you too, ladies and gentlemen, for your attention. Now it's time for a 10-minute break. After the break, there will be a roundtable entitled Crisis, a Danger or an Opportunity. It will be led by Magister Wilhelm Nest, Director of Advantage Austria Ljubljana. Stay with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Wiesinger.
Welcome to panel 3 of our conference, Moving Slovenia. We are now going to look at the coronavirus crisis. Is it only a danger or also an opportunity for us? What can we learn from the crisis? How will the future of logistics look like? And which new technologies are shaping the way of the future of logistics also in terms of green logistics? Let's try and find answers to these questions. And I would like to introduce our experts that we have on this panel. Actually, we have 3 experts, but one unfortunately has got difficulties with the internet connection. So first of all, I would like to introduce Mr. Luka Šustašić. He is head of CSN, IT infrastructure, help desk and TV services at A1 Slovenia. Robert Sever is director of the Transport Association at the Chamber of Commerce and Industry of Slovenia. And Matej Križaj is with Svarko. He's managing director and regional manager of Southeast Europe. He's a gentleman with the internet problems. So I would like to ask Luka Šustašić to give us his point of view, what the crisis means for A1 Slovenia. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the introduction. So I hope you see the slides. Yes. So I will today talk about how 5G will shape our business in the future, opportunities and challenges that comes with this story. So first, just a short introduction. So A1 Slovenia is part of Telekom Austria Group. We are 7 operators in 7 countries, serving 25 million customers. We provide mobile, fixed services, voice, data, TV, machine-to-machine, and even much more than that. So, but for the day discussion, it's important the following. Since several years, we have a strong international A1 digital team and local IoT technology and innovation teams, which positioning as a reliable partner for digitalizing companies' businesses. And the mission of A1 Digital and also our local team is to enable customer to translate digital potential into the business results. So we have many successful stories already behind and many ongoing. And of course, the focus like infrastructure as a cloud solutions, virtual network and connectivity, Internet of Things such as smart metering, predictive maintenance, end-to-end IT solutions for cargo tracing and process automation. So before we dig into the 5G and its application to industry, let me just a few words on the latest pandemic, COVID-19, and speculations about the 5G technology behind. So the conspiracy theories about the mobile technologies have a long history. You have already heard about birds falling from the sky, about corona related to 5G technology, as Wuhan was the city where the 5G tests were executed. But of course, this is not true. So 5G is fundamentally not different than the previous technologies. So the laws of the radio signal propagation have not changed. And but it is only using more advanced algorithms and technologies that enable better spectrum utilization that then, as you will see and hear today during the presentation, can enable the new use case usability. So we have also the International Commission on Non-Ionizing Radiation Protection that provides scientific advice and guidance on the health and environmental effects of to protect people and environment. So why I'm mentioning this? Because it's very important that people understand that what we are doing, our business, it's really regulated. So inside the European Union, country might impose even the stricter limitations about the EMF. So EMF is the abbreviation for the electromagnetic fields. In Slovenia, for example, we set 10 times stricter limits than proposed by the Commission I just mentioned before. And I can share with you that during the 5G testing that were executed already at the end of last year, we did comparison of all technologies and measurements. And the results confirmed that the similar EMF level between all the technologies, so 2G, 3G, 4G, and also 5G. Bottom line, 5G is not a threat, but rather opportunity to be more efficient in the future against similar breakouts like COVID-19 and much more than that. So what is 5G? First, the 5G, like the previous technologies, is an evolution of the 4G technology. As you can see, we are witness of the new mobile communication technologies pretty much every 10 years. And yes, 6G is on the way. It will be, again, much faster, much better than 5G. It will ensure error-free transmission and long-distance communication. 5G today enables the higher transmission speeds for the users, better coverage in the area, higher capacity, especially in the places where the problem of the network saturation is already felt today. Still, on the other hand, 5G is a bit different than the predecessors. For the first time, it is not only user-oriented. It means that we are not talking about the mobile users, but addresses additional applications possibilities in different areas. 5G is expected to transform the role of telecommunication technology plays in the society, enable further economic growth, digitalization, capacity for people and things and devices. So 5G is a story of more. IoT talks about million connected devices per square kilometer, 15 years battery lifetime, extreme data speeds up to 10 gigabits per second, low latencies below 1 milliseconds, which are requested for the critical verticals, autonomous driving. Industry demands high network availability, so guaranteed quality of service. In order to provide all the above, we need to build a new 5G network, radio transport and core, and change the way we are working today. The 5G network paradigm is different from its predecessors. The guaranteed quality of service means a new network concept. Network as we know them today, one size fits all, like for example today's solution that we use for 2G, 3G, and 4G technologies, will replace a new, different 5G network. So, why 5G? 2 years ago, McKinsey research showed three main reasons for 5G. At that time, the reason was network leadership, customer experience, and capacity extensions. Today, there is much more than that. 5G addresses urban network congestion in high-density area, higher data speeds, cord-cutting alternative streaming service via 5G network, smart homes, use of augmented reality, virtual reality, gaming, immersive communication, but even more important, a platform for industry digitalization and automation. All above is going to be mainly utilized by three different use cases as depicted on the left-hand side of this picture. As you can see, each use case supports specific technical characteristics that enables different usability. Enhanced mobile broadband enables high data rates and high data traffic volumes by use of carrier aggregation and MIMO radio technologies. Massive machine type communication or massive Internet of Things use case will include millions of low-cost devices, sensors in limited area, low energy consumption, and long lifespan of batteries, deep coverage. Ultra-reliable and low-latency communications important for mission-critical services like self-driving, healthcare, industry automation, and smart grids. 5G technology is here. First, operators launched the new technology already 2 years ago. Consumer markets demands 5G. There are vast variety of use cases already today that benefits from the new 5G technology. 5G will play important role in automotive, entertainment, gaming, smart home, shopping use cases. Size of the bubble in this picture presents the customer willingness to pay for this functionality. As you see, there is quite a lot of potential in the future. Like said, 5G but is not only user-oriented, but also addresses additional possibilities in different areas. 5G even more important in the role of service providers in the industry value chain. Service revenue growth for mobile communication service providers is close to flat. So prediction shows only remarkable increase of 1.5% in the following years. So the combination of 5G and digitalization creates new opportunity for service providers like A1 Slovenia to build and extend business beyond connectivity. By 2026, the expected industry digitalization revenues from ICT players worldwide across all industries are expected to amount of 3.4 trillion US dollars. Projection made by Ericsson shows that the total value of the global addressable 5G enabled market for service providers like VR across the 10 industries is projected to be 620 billion by 2026. It's up to service provider to exploit the addressable potential and maximum possible extent in order to gain as much as projected 26% of revenue growth potential in comparison to existing service revenues. It is far beyond connectivity only. We need to support industry with software platforms, applications tailored to specific industry. The largest piece of cake comes from manufacturing, energy, public safety, healthcare, and public transportation. One of the main factors in 5G networks is ensuring the SLA for particular business customers. So we are talking about availability, integrity, and of course, security. You can imagine an hour or more service outage when we are talking about transport, public safety, or healthcare. And how are we going to achieve those requirements? It's definitely not an easy task. So as mentioned, one-size-fits-all network, as we use it today, will be replaced by the new 5G technology. A bit closer look into the IT market potential in Slovenia. So we did the projection of the GSMA study on the global IT market last year. And as you can see, IoT business will grow over the next years. Today, connectivity presents 8% of the total IoT revenues, 67% comes from the platforms and application, and 22% from the professional services. Not surprisingly, connectivity as already today is a commodity. So those we need. It is very important for us, service providers, to find our role in the industry value chain as a reliable partner in the digitalization process. Here, there are just a few examples of logistic use cases in combination with the 5G. But furthermore, real-time updates on cargo movements using artificial intelligence to optimize fleet routes from real-time data feeds, reduction of total turnaround time for assembly and repair processes in warehouses via the augmented reality channel, and much more. We are focused on the digitalization of industry verticals like manufacturing, electric energy, and logistics. We believe that all cloud-based software as a service applications and solutions that are seen as path to and sustainable competitiveness in mentioned industries, including logistic and reliable mission-critical connectivity. Digital technologies like telematics, mobility, cloud, analytics, augmented and virtual reality, artificial intelligence, machine learning, driven autonomous system, and others can leverage to redesign business processes and build new revenue streams. Today, it is not possible to support all use cases we mentioned in the previous discussions. To better understand why, I will just shortly explain the advantages and the new functionality 5G technology brings. Architecture design for network we are using today is based on so-called network function virtualization. That significantly differs from the compared network solution that we used, let's say, 1 or 2 years ago. We are talking about scaling, service chaining, and shorter time to establish new service or functionalities. But in 5G, the target 5G architecture is based on the service-based architecture, the use of microservices, and orchestration through Kubernetes. We are talking about cloud-native standalone solutions. And here, very important to mention is also how we are going to support low latencies for certain industry cases. It's going to be supported by separation of control and use and plane, and the use of cloud distributed MEC data centers. I'll explain a bit more in the last slide that I have then in following presentation. The reason is that we need to process user traffic as close as possible to the customer without transporting into the main data centers, as we're doing it today. Cloud-native technology enables faster development and new services that market will need and more automation. To cover industry verticals, we will define so-called network slices in the 5G. Growing network density, complexity, need for real-time quality assurance will be a constant. The network will not be manually managed anymore. Process automation will need to be supported by advanced technologies such as artificial intelligence and machine learning. All of the above requires different approaches to work, a new way of thinking, and above all, the agility. And the last slide. In 5G, we are talking about network slices. So just a shorter, let's say, explanation, what is it about? Network slices in 5G technology are software-defined logical networks that provide a service and quality for the selected user with defined properties. So to be more, let's say, simple, it's about ensuring the SLA and quality of service for particular industry verticals. As you can see in the picture below, there are examples of 3 different use cases that I mentioned already before. So massive machine type communication, enhanced mobile broadband, and ultra reliable low latency communication. So each of them requires a special technical characteristics. And we are going to ensure those by different network slices. So we can actually dedicate the network resources for a particular use case. And by that, and the help of orchestration, we can also dynamically define network through the lifecycle. So it means when a particular slice needs higher speeds or more data, additional resources will be automatically allocated, similarly in the case of detection hardware or software error. To make it simple, we are today already building, working on a project for a new complete network renovation. We are building completely new 5G standalone network that is going to be a future platform for everything we discussed. And A1 is here to help you digitalize your business. That's actually the end of my presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Šustašić, for this interesting presentation of 5G and its applications. Obviously, 5G offers more opportunities than risks. Could you maybe just answer the question if the crisis, the coronavirus crisis, slows down or speeds up the implementation and the rollout of 5G? Or doesn't have any impact on it?
Well, no, actually, the discussion about the 5G was way before the Corona crisis started. So, like said, some of the most advanced operators are offering the 5G use cases already for 2 years, but implication in the industry, that it's actually the most important theme for today, is going to be, let's say, reality from now and onwards. So, like said, we are already working on the project for quite, let's say, more than a year now. And it's just about that we are going to build a new environment. Some of the use cases we can already support today, but not everything. Like I mentioned, these network slices, it's something that is not supported with the current architecture that we are using now. And to be able to support also those and many use cases in the industry, of course, we have to also renovate and build complete new network.
Thank you very much. We will now turn to our next speaker, Mr. Robert Sever, with the Chamber of Commerce of Slovenia. Mr. Sever, please, can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you.
Perfect. Please give us your opinion on the crisis and the impact on logistics.
So, good afternoon to everyone. I will talk about how coronavirus affected the logistic industry and the influence of epidemic in Slovenia. In last part of my presentation, I will indicate possible solution of the problems that we are facing it. I think that you all saw this presentation of mine. Forecast for Slovenia in this year, GDP will fall up for 6.5%. And export for 30%, and unemployment will stop at 5.5%. The forecast for 2021 is slightly more optimistic. GDP will grow for 5%, export will continue to decline for 8%, and unemployment will have 5.4%. The economic sentiment index for 3 months important subject sub-sectors in Slovenia slightly improved, mainly into the huge rebound in the manufacturing sector. In October, as you can see, and November is cooled off due to the second round of the lockdown. So this is the obvious, this index. And these are the sectors in Slovenia which suffered the most from the coronavirus due to the very strict measures. These are tourism, events, transport of passengers, retail, restaurants, and of course, personal services. On the other hand, we have also the sectors that managed to increase value added in this year. These are manufacturing, pharmaceutical, online retail, IT support, as you can hear the presentation before, and public services, education and health, of course. So the impact of coronavirus in the global market on the logistics sector decreased the gross value added for 6.1%. And the impact is known in 4 areas. The first area is capacity of redirection and alternatives. I have shown only a few characteristics on this field, and as you can see, maritime and aviation sector are the most affected in this coronavirus. Another specific area of pandemic impact in logistics is rapid changes in orders and consumer demands. Analysis estimates that 55% of the consumers will continue to shop online also after the end of the coronavirus crisis. Logistic market is expected to shrink for 7.5%. The third area of impact of pandemic is importance of your supply chain location, geostrategic position. There is a trend that productions want to bring the production closer to home, closer to customers. And the fourth area is, of course, logistics response to the changing trends. Logistics must offer solutions to these changing trends, and only a few solutions are listed below. I will stop also later on the one solution we prefer in the Chamber of Commerce and Transport Association. Now let's look at some of the impact of pandemic on different modes of transport in Slovenia. Revenue in the logistics sector has declined in the first 9 months of this year for 12%. On monthly basis, 1.9%. Data for other modes of transport are also shown. Land transport declined for 11%, warehousing 12%, and post and courier services 4%. But in September, we have increase of revenue in the postal and courier services for 2.6%. In road transport, we have passenger transport that is most affected from the coronavirus. This is a reduction in the number of passengers and the passenger kilometers by 50% in the first 9 months. Only in September, the reduction was from 40 to 28%. As I mentioned, maritime transport suffered a massive impact of the coronavirus. In Port of Koper, traffic has fallen for 90%, and in September for 10%. And as you can see, the passenger was reduced for 100%. Due to the second lockdown, many logistic companies are showing lack of confidence. As you can see, after the first lockdown, there was some optimistic feeling among logistic companies, but now for a long time it's unfortunately not. So, the solution to new demands and challenging period is logistic digitalization. Concrete establishment of the single window, single entry point. This allows all customers in supply chain to exchange defined information and documents for all legal import, export, and transit procedures. all users can have 24 hours access to the electronic transmission of all documents. Due to the shortening in the processing time of all documents and permits, this is one of the key levers for the development and promotion of international trade, and of course, response to the upcoming challenges because of the coronavirus and perhaps financial crisis. So, why a single window is a logistic offered as a solution? Because we have reduction on import procedure for 50%, reduction of working hours for half, and we will reduce the costs for 47%. These are benefits that brings implementation of the single window. This is a short for all from my side. Thank you for your attention.
Of the sector. Maybe I could ask you right away another question. What advice would you give companies working in the logistics sector how to develop in the near future?
So we must be aware that we have...
Stefano.
We heard there. We must be aware that we have a certain period ahead. After the pandemic health crisis, might be a new financial crisis also. Logistic companies will have to respond to all these challenges. In my presentation, I have already shown some solutions. I will point out that digitalization in logistics and is very important, and of course the introduction of new technologies into the logistic process is crucial. I will also mention that we launched a pilot project last month, use of electronic CMR documents in reality. It was carried out the road transport between Slovenia and Turkey. Here we have a full support of our supervisory authorities, customs, police, and of course, Ministry of Infrastructure. And further on, Slovenia Logistics has high expectation also from the infrastructure investments. Mainly after the many years of preparation, we look forward to the beginning of the construction of the second track between Koper and Divača, and investments in the modernization of the railway tracks in our hinterland markets. There is also projected investments in logistic terminals and hubs. And of course, all these investments we expect to maintain competitiveness of our logistic services. Of course, we hope that will be enough. This will be enough to respond to the crisis period we have.
Thank you very much. I would say the perspective for the industry is pretty good. As you might know, Advantage Austria Ljubljana is the Slovenian office of the Austrian Federal Economic Chamber. And this is also why the opinion of our Slovenian sister organization is of particular interest for us. Maybe I could go back to Mr. Šustašić and ask him another question. Well, I started my job in Slovenia only in October, and I was delighted to learn and to see that A1 was such an important player in Slovenia and in Southeast Europe. And I have to admit, I also have become a customer of A1. So what role does the 5G technology play in terms of implementing the green technology? Will 5G speed up or slow down the green revolution?
Yeah, good question. Thank you very much. So first, we are aware that the European Union set a very ambitious target in minimizing the greenhouse gases emission by 2050. And for sure, our role as a mobile operators is definitely that with existing and of course, especially new technologies, contribute to this common goal in order to minimize carbon dioxide footprint, to minimize the electro consumption, etc. So, for example, how we can help also the industry is definitely we can optimize the of fleet routes based on the real-time data analytics, meaning that we can have a very good information what is going on the routes, what would be the best possible, let's say, alternative in case there is some traffic jams or whatsoever on a certain point of the travel and so on. So vehicle platooning based on ITS. We are talking about intelligent transportation system. We are talking about several tracks in forming the formation. And by that, of course, we can increase the safety, reduce fuel consumption, and so on. There are many cases with the smart cities, smart lighting, traffic management in the big cities, and so on. Meaning, if there is a good information, good data analytics about possible, I don't know, free parking space in certain area. If there is none, then of course we can reroute the traffic and give the information to the drivers that should not enter the center of the city because of that. And of course, let's say even better case, smart grid in the smart energy consumption, or maybe a supply chain based on predictive analytics and so on. And even more, when it comes to mobile technologies, it is actually ongoing activity in terms of minimizing the power consumption and carbon dioxide footprint already now. So we have implemented many power saving features in our network. We are developing continuous also in the 5G. For example, 5G is bringing a technique called beamforming, which actually enable focusing of the wireless signal coming from antenna only to the receiving device, and only when there is a request for a communication. And this is quite, let's say, different than we are used today, because let's say current antennas for the mobile communications are actually spreading the signal in the broader area. And of course, we also have a plan to switch off some of the legacy technologies in very short term. And by that, by switching off the technology, of course, we will also directly have an impact to the power consumption and the green technology story behind.
Thank you very much. To sum up, I would say the crisis, of course, is hard for parts of the industry, but the future looks bright, especially if you're open also to apply the new technologies. Thank you very much, Mr. Šustačić. Thank you very much, Mr. Sever. So I would like to close this panel, and this also brings us to the end of our conference. Thank you very much, everybody, for taking part in this 4th edition of Moving Slovenia. I would like to thank our sponsors, 2HM or 2HM, Log Center A, Siemens Mobility, PTC Logistics Center, and the insurance company Triglav. This event was sponsored also by the Association Austrian Logistics in Vienna and by Go International, which is a joint internationalization initiative of the Federal Ministry for Digital and Economic Affairs and the Austrian Federal Economic Chamber. Thank you for your attention. Let's stay in touch. Please follow us on social media and also have a look at our new website, advantageaustria.org/si. We hope to see you all next year, next autumn, at the 5th edition of Moving Slovenia. And I would like to take this opportunity also to wish you a Merry Christmas and a happy and better New Year. Thank you very much.
Thank you.